Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Every Damn Week podcast. This week's topic I felt was an appropriate one based on a lot of things that I'm seeing in today's society. And the topic I want to focus on is victimhood. And what do I mean by victimhood? Well, first, I want to start off by sharing a kind of a quote I've come up with here. Victimhood is not a badge of honor, but a prison of your own making. And the thing is, victim mentality is so destructive. I know from my own personal life that being a victim destroys everything about you. Um, Basically, it involves perceiving yourself as helpless and blaming external circumstances for your own personal difficulties. And this is significant in society because this is really where we're going with a lot of the things that I see on TV and in the news, and even on social media, where people blame other people for their own problems instead of taking ownership and doing something about it. For me, this is personal because this was my whole life for the first 48 years or so of my life, where I thought the world was out to get me, that it wasn't my fault. There was nothing I could do about my circumstances or my situation. It was up to other people to fix my problems for me. It was up to others to see the pain and the suffering I was going through and to step up and fix it for me and tell me what to do about it. Instead of me taking ownership, looking outside of myself, outside of my own head, and looking for other ways to solve my own problems and pull myself out of my situation. There are a lot of people who in this world struggle with this concept. Um, so, what is the identity of a victim? Um, my theory on this is that long-term victimhood becomes a person's identity. When you do it for a long, long time, it just becomes you. It becomes a part of you. It's embedded. When somebody adopts this mentality, it begins to define who you are, and people recognize it and they see it and they go, oh, well, there goes John again. Oh boy, here he goes again, thinking the world's out to get him, or, thinking that, whatever situation is not his fault instead of looking within. Um, the thing about long-term victimhood, the long-term victim identity, you become comfortable in it. You begin to welcome it. It feels good. It's like a drug. You start to depend on that victim status to help you feel good about yourself because, again, you're stuck within your own head and it's nobody else's fault. Um, the concept of helplessness was a psychological phenomenon first identified by Martin I'm going to butcher this name, Seligman, in the 1960s. Learned helplessness occurs when individuals repeatedly face uncontrollable negative situations and begin to believe that they are powerless to change their circumstances. This belief can lead to a victim mentality where individuals see themselves as perpetually oppressed by forces beyond their control. Let me share another statistic here with you where it was in 1993 where Peterson, Meyer, and Seligman, the same one, high levels of learned helplessness are a greater risk for developing depression. That's huge. And I can confirm that from experience where when you feel helpless, you eventually you get depressed about your situation and it brings you down when you feel like there's nothing you can do about it, when in reality, you probably can. What are some signs? How do you know when you are in a victim state. Some people don't recognize it or realize it. I didn't for a long time. And it was something that I had to learn myself and figure out with the help of others. But here's three things in particular. Blame shifting. So where you're constantly blaming others for your external circumstances, for your personal failures or setbacks. I remember when I was in real estate and I started doing that. And I wasn't, quite frankly, I wasn't very good as a real estate agent. I really didn't have the skill set for it. But I thought I did. And I thought that I was really good at it. And I thought that my failures as a real estate agent were not my fault. I was blaming other people for it. And I didn't recognize that until after I stopped being a real estate agent and I decided, to go back to my IT career. And over the years, I realized, oh, yeah, it was me. I really wasn't a fit for that field. I'm not a salesman. I am not someone who's very, very good at real estate. So that was me blame shifting. Another sign, external validation, where you are relying on others to validate your feelings of victimhood, where you sit down with someone and you explain to them, oh, this is not my fault and it's all because of this and that. And you've got another person that's like, yeah, that's right. It's someone else's fault. Let's blame them. And you're looking for that sympathy and that, or even empathy to some degree, to help to amplify that perceived helplessness that you're feeling. So external validation is another sign that this is happening. And what's a third one? You're resistant to change. You don't want to take responsibility for your own life or your own circumstances. And so, with that blame shifting that's going on, you do not embrace change or personal growth because you don't see the need for it. It's not necessary. This was my life. And I grew up around this, where there was a constant blaming of others for the situations that we were in. And, this is something that I took with me and carried with me for decades. Now I have a much different mindset about it because I've worked hard to get out of that victim state. And let's go dive into what are some of the external influences that we have in our lives that will continually amplify this victim state. And the very, very first one I want to dig into, and I might go on a rant here, so I'm warning you. The media. And frankly, this can get into a political discussion. I don't want to turn this into a political discussion. But quite frankly, if you're not in a victim state, you see this. You see this in what's going on, where the media, this is where my rant begins. 24-hour news was the beginning of the destruction of society as we have it today. It's not 24-hour news. It's 24-hour opinion. And that opinion gets shoved down your throat all the time. And over time, we get stuck in front of the television and we're glued to it and we suck it in and we just want more and we want more. Yeah. This is part of that whole situation of external validation. So yeah, what they said, this is exactly what I believe. Sometimes they're spoon feeding us. In fact, not sometimes, a lot of the time. They're spoon feeding us what they want us to believe. What is the media's goal? The media's goal is to make money and, frankly, to have access to power. Those are the two driving forces for media. So in order to get you to basically become a zombie and suck in, they need to create something that's going to touch you and make you feel like everybody's after you. Everybody's out to get you and make you angry and make you want to be so upset about what that particular issue is or what that politician did today or whatever. It's their job because they want you sucked in and they want you watching the news. And so if they make you a victim, that's even better because now again, they are your external validation. It is like a moth to a flame. It's going to suck you in every single time. Um, the thing about the news is it's addicting. This is where it just amplifies. I honestly think this is the biggest source of victimhood because they want you to be a victim. They encourage you to be a victim, that you are helpless and that only they can solve your problem or only these select people can solve your problem. Instead of turning the darn thing off and actually go and read a book or go do your own research, go find out from somewhere else other than the news to get your information so that you are no longer feeling like a victim. Case in point, I go back 12 years, even before that a little bit. I used to watch 24-hour news a lot. I used to get my information from the news and it used to fire me up and it got me into serious arguments with people. And I believed in the whole victim status situation where, yeah, I'm being wronged and I don't deserve this. And these people are doing these things to me. This politician did this to me. And hey, that's not what I wanted you to vote for, et cetera, et cetera. And I got mad. I got frustrated. You know, I finally turned off the news. I watch it for certain information if I want to follow a live news story that's going on, but I do not watch the opinion pieces anymore. I try to avoid the opinion pieces. I'm very selective on where I get my news from, and I try to find the smart people who are not out there to control you. Think for those of us who are my age or maybe even a little older, think back to Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite was a newsman, and his saying at the end was, "And that's the way it is." And you know what? That's all he did is he presented the facts, and he didn't tell you how you should think. You analyzed it. That doesn't happen anymore. There's no more critical thinking on our part. It's being done for us and then spoon-fed to us. The media is the worst, the absolute worst influence on us. Another influence is validation from other victims. What misery loves company. You know, you've heard that term. When you're feeling miserable, you want to find someone else who's just as miserable as you, and you want to go spend time with that person because it helps you feel better. It validates. It's that validation again. In groups, I want to pause on this. I want to think about something called groupthink. This is a concept that where the desire for conformity in a group leads to irrational or dysfunctional decision making. In groups where victim mentality is prevalent, members may reinforce each other's negative beliefs and discourage dissenting views that promote personal responsibility or change. Does this look like something that's going on in the news today? Does this look like this is something that's going on in politics today, where negative beliefs and discouraging dissenting views are prevalent? This ties right in. This is why I'm on this topic right now, because this is what's happening today. You are not allowed to think a certain way, and therefore, if you do, you are brought down for having that idea. And that's encouraging a victim status, because the idea is to make you feel bad so that you will feel like a victim and you won't fight back. They want you to relent. How about another influence is the power of association. This is the concept that I think about. You are the average of the 5 people that you associate with. I've said this before, and this is not an unknown quote here, okay? When you surround yourself with people who are of growth mindset, who want to be better, who are not victims, who know that, okay, they make mistakes, they learn from the mistakes, and they grow and they do better, and they are in control of themselves despite all of the external factors that may be having an impact on them. I'm going to butcher this again too. Christakis and Fowler in 2007, their findings demonstrated that behaviors and mindsets such as obesity, smoking, and happiness can spread through social networks. For example, if a close friend becomes obese, it increases a person's likelihood of becoming obese by 57%. So what this suggests is that victim mentality can spread very easily with social influence and leads to a cycle of negativity and disempowerment. Booker T. Washington. This falls right in line with the quote I just shared about the average of the 5 people. He says here, associate yourself with people of good quality, for it is better to be alone than in bad company. It is important that you associate with the right people who are going to help you to think more positive, think of ways to be better, to grow. You need to be around growth-oriented people in order to be happy. Otherwise, if you're constantly in a victim state, I can tell you right now, those I know who are in victim states are angry, miserable people most of the time because they're angry at the world. They're angry with everybody around them. They're not angry with themselves because they're not the problem. Everybody around them is the problem. They're angry, but not in the right direction. Critical thinking versus emotional manipulation. This is huge because as a victim, you don't critically think. You are being manipulated through your emotions. This is where the media gets you every single stinking time. The media pulls on your heartstrings and brings you in to try and trick you into believing that this is the way. This is the right way to go. You have to break free from emotional entanglements that pull you in that pull you into emotional decision making. Emotional decision making is one of the worst things you could be doing. You must critical think. You must bring logic into it. There's nothing wrong with looking at your feelings and trying to determine, does this feel good? Does this not feel good? But if you're allowing your emotions to overrun your logic completely, then you got a problem. You've got to be able to get your information from multiple sources, and hopefully some of those sources don't pull on your heartstrings. In other words, turn off the media. Go find another answer to whatever it is you're looking for. Don't believe everything the media writes because their job is to manipulate you anyway. Or find people who are not going to try and manipulate you emotionally. You want people who are going to help you analyze and critically think and come up with a solution that works for you. Don't depend on others to give you the answers. Go get the answers yourself. That's how you get out of a victim state. There is a danger of being what's called in an echo chamber. Again, this is part of being around people that are like-minded in the same philosophy, where if you're around these people who have the same worldview, it further reinforces that victim status. So whatever you say, they're like, yeah, and they say the same thing back to you, or it's an echo amongst everybody that you're around. You see this on social media, folks. It's the same thing. I fell into this trap long time ago. I used to do that. Yeah, exactly. What they said. Ash conformity experiments in 1955, this goes back quite a ways, showed that about 75% of participants conformed to the incorrect judgment of a group at least once, even when they knew the group was wrong. Even when they knew the group was wrong, they did it anyway. Why? The social pressure. Okay? The danger of not just being in the echo chamber, but the danger of not being accepted anymore. The fear of not conforming to the group and then being made to feel bad for critically thinking about another way of doing it. If you don't do it their way, well, they're going to make you feel bad. They're going to punish you for it. That's going on today. This study was in 1955. It's happening today, folks. So I want to talk about the blame game and self-sabotage. Boy, do I know what this is like. I know what self-sabotage does to you. People who are in a victim state will blame others for their circumstances, whether it be society, specific individuals, or broader systems. And this blame shifting will allow them to avoid taking responsibility for their own actions, and it perpetuates the cycle of helplessness. To be honest, this is very much like some of the welfare system, where sometimes the welfare system, more recently it's been cleaned up a bit, but it used to be where you get the welfare as long as you stay down, stay in poverty, you get the free money. That's self-sabotage, in my opinion. The idea for welfare is to help you when you're struggling to get back on your feet. It's not to become a way of life. And so in a victim status, that's what you're looking for: welfare from other people. You're working from help from other people to help perpetuate and continue that thinking. And so you're self-sabotaging yourself from becoming a better individual and growing. People who blame their upbringing, their economic background, the social environment that they're in for their current situation, without recognizing that they have a role in their own personal choices in shaping their own lives. We are individuals. We are in a country where we're free. You have the power. And I know there are people who will say, well, no, my culture or my society or whatever, I'm down because of how I'm treated. No, I don't believe that. I have seen people pull out of terrible circumstances and turn their lives around. We are individuals. God gave us the ability to make free decisions for ourselves. We have free agency, folks. When you hand that free agency over to someone else, you are no longer free. You are now a victim. And when you do that and you allow it to continue over and over and over again, you're no longer free. You are stuck. Therefore, what happens is you're self-sabotaging. Self-sabotage it can manifest in a lot of forms, such as procrastination, neglecting responsibilities, or engaging in behaviors that undermine your success. It's often a defense mechanism to avoid discomfort by growth or change. I can tell you right now, I lived this. I knew what I didn't recognize at the time, but this is what I wanted. I wanted to be in my victim state, and I wanted to continue to sabotage myself because I didn't want to be better, because I didn't want to do the hard work. I didn't want to go through pain and suffering and do what it takes. And that's physically. I didn't want to go to the gym and bust my butt every single day, but I had to do it if I wanted to be better. Back then, I didn't want to read books. I didn't want to journal. I didn't want to do any of the things. I really didn't want to pray a whole lot either. I didn't want to do all the things I needed to do to grow spiritually either. All of these areas, all these domains that I didn't want to focus on because I didn't want the discomfort. I was comfortable in my misery. It's that addiction. It felt good. So I would do everything I could to self-sabotage, sometimes unknowingly. I'll give you an example. I remember when I went on a hike with some friends of mine. We were climbing up a 14er, and it was going to be hard. We were going up some snow that was a lot deeper, and we had to have crampons. And Around the 12:05 mark, um, I I had discovered that when I packed my crampons in my bag, I had actually put them in there um, with my water bladder, and they poked holes in the water bladder. So I was low on water. It had been leaking. So instead of using any grit or discipline for that matter to go to the top, I stopped right there and I sat down. I waited for everybody else to go to the top, and I waited for someone else to come back down. I quit. I didn't want the discomfort. I didn't want to suffer. Granted, I may still have not made it to the top. It's probably not a go up. It's not a good idea to go to the top dehydrated, but I just gave up. I self-sabotaged. And to this day, I regret it. I wanted to go to the top and I didn't. And I missed on that opportunity. And I may never get it again. That that self-sabotage put me into victim state. A statistic on a study by Ferrari and Teese, I think I'm saying that right, found that chronic procrastinators, a form of self-sabotage, experience higher levels of stress, guilt, and low self-esteem. Yeah, I can confirm that. I don't need to go through the experiment. I lived it. I had very low self-esteem because I was not willing to put in the effort and the grit and the discipline to to get past the difficulties and have success, so that I would not feel guilty or have low self-esteem. This cycle of procrastination, it just reinforces negative beliefs about oneself and perpetuates that victim mentality. So let's talk about growth mindset versus victim mindset. Now, the latter, growth mindset, emphasizes personal development, resilience, and accountability. It's not the latter, it's the former. Get it right. Growth mindset involves seeing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than insurmountable obstacles. Like me on that mountain. I should have found ways, okay, maybe I could have taken some snow and eaten some of the snow on the way up. Stay hydrated. I didn't think outside the box. I just got into helpless mode and said, I'm done. I can't do it now. Um, I I had a growth mindset, I could have made it had I pushed and tried harder. And that obstacle would not have prevented me from having the success that I was looking for. Viktor Frankl. If you don't know who Viktor Frankl is, look him up. You must. This quote just it just zeroes right in for me. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. See, again, think back to that story of me up on the mountain. I couldn't change. I didn't see myself changing the situation because I saw it as what it was. But I didn't change myself and readapt to be able to go through and get through that challenge. I allowed the challenge to defeat me. Um, it's important that adapting the growth mindset over victimhood, it's important because you build personal responsibility. You build ownership. When you're in the most difficult situations, you have the power to choose and to choose to win. That's what's great about it. So let's talk about, how do you break free from this? What does it take to break free? Well, this is the big one. This is the big one. Recognition and awareness. Recognizing that you're in this state, that you're stuck, and become aware of the thoughts and the behaviors that reinforce it. It's interesting because I had a family member who is a victim. all their life. And that was influencing me. And when that victim status, when they turned it around on me and made it seem as though they were a victim of something they claim I did but didn't do, my eyes were open. That awareness hit. And I went, oh my goodness. That was the example I learned that from. I saw it. And I can't live like that anymore. And I'm doing this to other people too. And I'm blaming other people for things that were not their fault, but mine. And so recognizing that you're in that state, that's one of the first steps to breaking free of the victim trap. It is key to initiating the change you must go through in order to develop the patterns that are necessary to actually overcome the challenges and stop being a victim and start taking ownership. Take responsibility. Like I was just saying, it leads to taking responsibility. It does not, you don't blame yourself for everything, but rather you're acknowledging the role that you're playing in shaping your own life. Yes, there are some times when something is out of your control and it is someone else's fault, but do you let that bring you down? Do you let it stop you? No. Decide for yourself how you're going to handle it. Take ownership. The findings of, again, I'm going to butcher this name, Kubzansky in 2001 showed that individuals with high levels of pessimism were 20% more likely to develop coronary heart disease. This highlights the physical health risks that are associated with negative mindset. There are studies out there that confirm this, that say the more negative you're thinking, the more you're self-destructive, the more unhappy you are. It destroys you physically. The body's a temple. If your mind is corrupted in such a way that it just stresses you out and makes you unhappy, your body reacts. There's some practical steps that we can take in order to actually work towards being less of a victim, hopefully not a victim. And I've done these. I've done all of these. Self-reflection. And I want to say that the one thing that helped me here was journaling. I've shared this a number of times, how journaling helps tremendously, where you can write down questions to yourself and you ask yourself, is this the right way to think about it? And you start analyzing it on paper, and you begin to see, as you're writing it, you begin to think. It gets the mind going, and it helps you to gain another perspective. Meditation is also a good way to do this, to clear your mind so that you're able to focus on this. But the other one, there's two more. A good close friend or spouse, someone close to you where you can go and you can reflect back, ask them to reflect it back to you. What is this the right thinking that I should be having? This is what I feel. This is what I think. What do you think? And get that back. Or a counselor, a therapist. That is a great way to get the answers you're looking for, to confirm and get that self-reflection back. Critical thinking, practice critical thinking. I encourage you to ask more questions, question your assumptions, seek out different perspectives. This is one of the problems in today's society, where you look at the political situation, the right and the left. Everybody sees it one way or the other. There's no middle ground anymore. There is no middle ground. You go back 40, 50 years, people found middle ground. We don't have that anymore. Analyze it from different angles, and then make your own choices and decisions from it. Don't let somebody else make the decision for you. Don't let the media decide it for you either. They're the worst. I'm sorry, the media is evil. Period. That's their job, is to be evil. They are going to sway you the direction they want you to go, instead of letting you think for yourself. This is where critical thinking is important. Stop taking the news at its word and find other sources for your information. Seek out challenges. Seek out ways. I mentioned this in the last episode about grit. Go out and find challenges that are going to build your grit. Create personal goals. Learn new skills. Step out of your comfort zone. Get out of your comfort zone. Do things that are difficult and not comfortable. That's how you grow. It will reduce the appeal of the victim mentality. And then the last thing, build a supportive network. Have people that are positive, growth-minded, and will challenge you to live the best life that you can live. Remember what I said. I shared Booker T. Washington's quote about associating with people of good quality. And I agree. If you can't be around people of good quality, then by all means, I'd rather be alone. I don't want to be around people who are negative around all the time. It makes me feel bad. And I don't ever want to feel like that again. I would much rather be around people who are going to lift me up than pull me down. So build a supportive network that's going to help you have the strength to overcome that victim mentality. Folks, let me just add this last piece in here, how this applies to dads. This applies to dads in the fact that we are an example to our children. If our children see us as a victim, they think that this is the way to live their life. When the parent shows that they are a victim to the world around them, they learn this and they feel as though that they need to do the same. And it builds the resentment towards the rest of society. And it grows generation by generation by generation. It just flows on down. The way you break the cycle as a dad, take ownership, be more positive, have a growth mindset, focus on being better every single day. Stop blaming others for the things that are happening in your life. Take ownership, blame yourself, and fix it. Show them that. Talk to them about that. Share these with them. Share the things you're thinking with them. They have to learn this. If you don't teach this to them, nobody else will. It is the job of a parent to teach how to be strong, stand on your own 2 feet, and take care of yourself and take ownership. Own your life and be better than the generation before you. That's what I'm doing. I have learned from the mistakes from my parents, and I am learning to be better and stronger every day and not repeat them. In some cases, not repeat them anymore. Folks, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. If you've gotten to this part in the video, you are awesome. You are someone that I want to be associated with because you're looking for ways to grow. You're looking for ways to be stronger, and you're looking to be better all the time. And that's what this channel is all about. And I'm going to keep providing content like that for you, Dad. If you're not Dad and you're someone else, I don't care who you are. This is applicable to everybody, but I'm talking to you, Dad. Dads, you've got to do better. We all have to do better. We need to be better dads in order to have a much better society. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next week.